what is the right way that they should approach you or anyone else about it, which also keeps in mind your, sensitivities?
See, the problem with social media is, if you look at the whole area of human trafficking, I personally feel, all of us just focus on rescues. And I personally think, after working for 20 years of initially research and now, there's no point of rescue if you're not going to do something about it, like whether it is
Long
about
term.
rehabilitation, or whether it is about empowering the person, or whether it is about giving financial independence to the person. Everywhere it's just about numbers.
This is the first time that I'm telling this story.
Hello there, and welcome to Whips and Chains.
An individual can be sold innumerable times.
What are the whips that we flog ourselves with often?
I discovered cancer, I had breast cancer.
And what are the chains that bind us down?
फिर मैंने YouTube पे देखा कि फीमेल फिटिसाइड होता कैसे
Is something I want to explore in my show.
They're orphans.
It's okay. It's okay.
गर्दन निकलती है बाकी हिस्सा ऐसे ऐसे करके निकलता है यार इतना बड़ा पाप होता अपने गांव में
It's horrific.
Somebody passed me by and hit my bum.
He did have a personality disorder.
कई बार मैं सो ही नहीं सका
All the traffickers that I've seen, they are common people like you and me.
She said, Kanda tu dein, vata putar tu.
If you talk about human trafficking, it's $1 billion business.
There was a lot of violence, a lot of aggression.
बड़े बड़े पुल बना दोगे उनसे ह्यूमैनिटी तो नहीं बनने वाली
And welcome to Whips and Chains. Hello there, and welcome to Whips and Chains, the show where we create a safe space to talk about the difficult issues that society asks us to shush. Today, I'm really excited to have with me my dear friend Pallabi Ghosh, who has been working in a very difficult field of rescuing victims of trafficking, mostly girls, but also women, young boys, young children, and all kinds of people from vulnerable sections of society. Now, Pallabi has been working in this field for 12 years. She has seen a whole lot of experiences. She has had encounters with all sections of society. So she's seen the good, bad, and the ugly. But what she does not really present to the world, or does not ever get the chance to talk about, is the huge toll that it takes on her as a young woman, a professional, a wife, and just a very big, large-hearted person trying to do her best every day. So with great love, I welcome you, Pallabi, to my show, and thank you so much. I know you're very busy, and it's taken a lot out of you to come here. So thanks a lot for being here, and welcome.
No, thank you so much for calling me, actually. Generally, people call me to talk about the subject of human trafficking, or maybe like how many people I have rescued, what are the kind of cases I have dealt with, which are the places from where trafficking happens, which are the destinations. So it's all about what I do.
Yes.
So it's never about me, like what I feel, what is going on in my mind, what about my personal life, what about the sacrifices I have made. So I am grateful to you for calling me.
All right, so let's just get directly into it. Now, this is such a huge area that, we all grow up, hearing these horror stories of human trafficking and what really happens to, vulnerable people. But what really inspired you? What was your story like that inspired you to not only get into it, but at such a granular level, give your whole life to it?
So it was not something that just happened in a day. So it was like 21 years back. So I was very small. I was around 12 when I had gone for a vacation in West Bengal. And one fine day, I had gone to spend 7 days in a village. And there, while I was roaming near the, village pond, there's this man who comes running and he starts shouting in Bengali that his daughter is missing. And he keeps coming to me like like he keeps coming to me again and again and telling me that his daughter is of my age. And I was 12. I don't know. I'm like, it did not bother me initially. But then later he told me that, if you were missing and if your father was searching for you, how would you have felt? And he told me that in Bengali. And my father was posted in Kanpur. Like, I was staying
Yeah.
far away from my father. I don't know what hit me. I'm like, because I come from a very small railway town in Assam, and where everybody knows everybody. Like, even if I go now, like everybody will ask me, when did you come? When will you leave? So for me, it was very surprising that that village consisted of hardly 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And it was surprising that, there is only one entry and one exit. So how is it possible that nobody knows where this girl has gone? And everyone in the village was looking at me when I started asking them in a very
Yeah.
like normal way.
Yeah.
Like, did you see this girl? And it was daylight. Like it was 5, 6 in the morning. And in Eastern India, it's that.
Yeah.
So I was surprised. I talked to around 30 to 40 people that time, and nobody knew. Everybody was telling in Bengali, Janina, means I don't know, I don't
Yes.
know. And it continued for 2, 3 days, and then I started asking this man, did you go to the police station? And he's like, yeah, I went to the police station. The police said that they will find my daughter. And then the police said that, she must be somewhere in the relatives. 4 days in that village, I don't know what happened to me. I couldn't sleep. I came back, I took that man's name, the village name, phone number, of course, mobile was not there. I came to Kolkata. I'm a very extroverted person, but I did not tell about this incident to anybody. I just came back to Kolkata, and then, one after another, things just happened organically. And I never thought that I'll become an anti-trafficking activist. It just happened. I came back, I started talking to people, tried to find out what happens to missing children. And then I started going to multiple places where I saw where there are riots, there are conflicts, children becoming armed soldiers. They are brainwashed. I saw that. And then there were incidents where I started seeing in railway stations, my hometown is basically a place where most people speak in Bengali or Assamese. I started seeing people speaking Haryanvi, Hindi.
Okay.
Hindi from Rajasthan,
So
Hindi
you were
from
curious.
UP. I'm like, how is it possible? Because I'm talking to you around 15 years back, how is it possible? And then this was this kind of intrigued me. What happened? And then when I started talking to me, they were like, they've come here for livelihood. I'm like, what kind of livelihood? And they were like, no, we were told that we'll come for livelihood. That time also I was not clear that something like this is happening. And then when I came to college, that is when it was it was the biggest encounter, when I was talking in Bengali with my mother, and I had some girls, and then they were telling me that, which language are you speaking in? I was like, my mother tongue. And then they were like, we have so many women in our village talking in this language.
Wow.
And I am like,
How is that possible?
I'm like, how is that possible? Because I come from far northeast, and I used to take a train that point of time, because the place where I come from, I had to go to Guwahati to take a flight. So I used to take a train which used to take us 2.5 days to come to Delhi. I'm like, how come people from there are here? And then I requested that girl to take me to villages, and she was like, no, she was very scared. But somehow I pulled out strings and I went to one village. And there I see women, their heads were covered this much. They had kids. And then I start talking in Hindi with them, and everybody's like, talk in the language. And I was reluctant, because their dress and their body language made me feel that they were from that place. And when I started talking in Bengali, the lady started howling. And I was shocked.
So what is the typical modus operandi that exists for these girls to come? Like, who gets them? How much are they sold for? Who buys them?
See, the thing is that if you talk about human trafficking, it's a $1 billion business, because unlike arms trafficking or drugs trafficking, in human trafficking, an individual can be sold innumerable times. There is no figure. You can sell a person again and again and again. So the people who are trafficked are mostly from very vulnerable communities, from places where there is a lot of poverty, unemployment, illiteracy, climate change, a lot of vulnerability in the family, like violence in the family. Father is an alcoholic, father is a drug addict, or maybe the father is not alive, or the mother is not there in the family. So any kind of vulnerabilities. And the modus, so there are different kinds of modus operandi. Like earlier when I started working, it was all about, you getting wrong numbers in your phone, and then you disconnecting the phone for 3-4 days, and then later people, somehow the person who is making a wrong number call is trying to dupe you, like.
Yeah.
So that was there. And then it was all about meeting you in the fair, and then, making eye contact with you and understanding that you are vulnerable. Then later it was all about, noticing you in the railway station, just figuring out that, by chance your mom and dad has left his or her hand, and then you are out in the train or in the, railway stations, or maybe you're an abandoned child, you are homeless, you are a runaway child. So this was earlier, but right now it's all about social media. With Facebook, people are getting, influenced or trapped. With Discord, with Slack, with Instagram. So
You mean social media is being used to groom children to run away from their homes?
Yes.
And these could be children from
Very good.
any very good homes also, right?
Yes.
So it could be like the parents are divorced, or they are working and they're not being able to look at their child enough. In fact, you've spoken about...
Right now we have
Yeah.
cases of children whose parents are working in very big MNCs, parents who are, into civil services, parents who are really like, they have like BMW or Mercedes, their children are missing. Their children are trafficked. It is just that, parents are giving everything to their children, like, all expensive. They have cars, they have all accessories, everything, but there is no communication with the child. And the child is looking for that affection and love outside. And there is this new trend that's coming where people are sending a friend request, and they are making it a habit to talk to the child every day by asking how you're doing, did you have food, good morning, how was your day, like basically that
being
emotional
the
connect.
parent, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that is where the child is looking for that kind of an involvement. And after a point of time, the attachment gets so strong that this person tells the child, you come here, we will meet, and then I'll take you for a ride or coffee. Basically, the child is looking for time.
And
that is,
attention.
so that is what this person is giving. And that's how trafficking has increased enormously.
So, so these kind of children, I mean, I'm sorry to ask such a horrendous question, but what is the minimum cost to buy such a person, and how much can the stakes go up?
See, it depends. Like, for example, it is 40, 50,000. For children from very elite families, the rates can be 1 lakh or something. But then most of the elite families, children are found out. We find them.
Yeah.
Because of the pressure. Like, there is so much of uproar that they create after the FIR and everything, and there is so much of pressure. So eventually we find out the children. But when it comes to vulnerable communities, we are not able to, like, out of the 1,000 trafficked cases, you might be able to track only 1 or 2 or 3. That also depends on the kind of networking, coordination, information, the last call made, the suspicion you have on somebody, the kind of people you have tracked down or, you have kept in custody. So that's how it is. But it's generally 40, 50,000. Like, it may increase also.
My. So, Pallavi, this kind of work that you do, and the kind of dedication that you have, the hours that you put in, you are a married woman, you have your own family, you have an elderly mother. What kind of support and what kind of feedback do they give you about the work you do?
See, my husband has been very supportive. But right now the situation is like that. After every 15 days, I start getting into this guilt feeling that, I might be taking my husband too much for granted, because how much ever we say that our country is the concept of gender equality, but I think the kind of marriage I am in, generally it doesn't happen, because husbands are generally like, you have to be at home, I am not at home for months. The last time I went home after 60 days, it was very challenging for me. But then somewhere I feel like I'm taking too much of advantage of him, because he's like it's my passion, of course, but then it's difficult for my family, because in the sense that the kind of work that I do, it comes with a lot of threats, and it comes
danger.
Threats, challenges, dangers. On top of that, I'm always sick, like 60 days of working outside, and I am completely in a position of collapse, and that's when I go home. So every time it's like I go home to recover. And then when I recover,
When
I'm
you go
out.
back.
So it's like, it is not my family's responsibility, to
fix you all the
to
time.
fix me all the time. So now my husband is telling me, we are ready to fix you. But the thing is that every time you get sick, and things just don't change. The situation just don't change. You keep waiting and waiting and waiting, and then it's very difficult to work. My mother is, of course, people, when I started working in this, people used to tell my mother, like, what kind of, she studied from a very good college, what nonsense is she doing, what are these things stuck in her clothes, and what nonsense she is doing, she is going to a bad place, and these kinds of comments. Then my mother just had one thing to say, that if I tell her to stop, will she stop? Because after a point of time, it became so irritating for my mother that every time people used to come and ask my mother, why is she allowing me, how much I'm getting paid. So it's difficult for my mother. But I think now my mother is like, she doesn't say anything. She just says that, you need to take care of yourself, because now the things have become, it has escalated a lot, because I'm talking a lot out in the open. Of course, my rescue operations, I don't reveal about my rescue operations, because I have seen how survivors and victims have been harrowed, like, what happened to you, like how media has actually asked them questions, like the kind of trauma or atrocities they have gone through. So it is difficult, but then, you keep managing. But I would say that, right now I'm at a phase where, I feel, I've done a lot. It's too much, like 12 years of extensive working in this. So I feel it is time for me to take, like, a little bit of,
Break. Yeah, time
if
for
not
yourself.
30 days, I can't. I can't, because my mental health is affecting now. Because,
Yeah,
when you are
that's-
on the work, seeing that kind of violence, that's a different thing. But when you read it,
Yes.
when you read it, your own interviews, when you see your own interviews, and you're like, okay, I did this. Like,
Yeah.
it is like you are asking,
It
okay, I
hits
did
you,
this.
yeah.
I actually did this. And you have videos of that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, it takes a real toll on your mental health.
Yeah, in fact, you were also telling me once that, when you are not working and people send you videos because they think that they want you to intervene there or whatever, and they send you really graphic content. And you were saying that I wish they could understand that, what a toll it takes on me to see all this content all the time. So tell me a little bit about that, the kind of sensitivity that you think is required in not only the media, because media is just one aspect, now social media, right? Because social media is open to everyone. What is the right way that they should approach you or anyone else about it, which also keeps in mind your, sensitivities?
See, the problem with social media is, if you look at the whole area of human trafficking, I personally feel, all of us just focus on rescues. And I personally think, after working for 20 years of initially research and now, there's no point of rescue if you're not going to do something about it. Like, whether it is
Long
about
term.
rehabilitation, or whether it is about empowering the person, or whether it is about giving financial independence to the person. Everywhere it's just about numbers. Like, how many you have rescued. The problem with people is that they just don't understand. Everybody has cameras, phone cameras.
Right.
They just click videos, click photos and post it. They just don't understand that there is something known as, some boundaries that they need to follow. The kind of content some people send me, my Instagram, I have never been a social media person. I just share basically my work. So my Instagram, my email, my Facebook Messenger, it's horrific. The kind of graphics they send me, the violent graphics that they send me, the kind of graphics they send me in terms of the violence that happens with the girl or the child, it is just so triggering. On top of this, there is nothing, just the graphics. They don't send where they're sending it from. They are not sending which is the
Any
place.
details.
Any details. So how to intervene? And on top of that, it is just random messages. And the biggest problem is, treating me like a god. Oh, come on, please understand. I am not a god. I can't. And I don't know in which video of mine did I say that I work in everything. Everywhere I've said that I work in against human trafficking, and I work against modern slavery. I've never said that I work in violence against women, because see, all these are very big fields. I might be working in 1% of it. So,
Right.
and I don't blame the people also, because they're so helpless. They just reach out to me. And the problem is that the cases that you hear, it's like, I don't know, it's heart-wrenching. the kind of exploitation that happens in their own families for years by their own, you know, relatives, own family members. And when I tell them, when they tell me, and when I tell them, go and do a police case, they were like, no, we can't do a police case. Police will not help us. Then I tell them, you know, even if I want to intervene, I can't. Because without police, because how much ever big activist I am, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Police has to intervene. So that is where it is a challenge. So I think one thing I would like to request everybody is that, you know, sensitivity just doesn't come by talking. You start talking about it in your own family. Start teaching your children about what is good touch, what is bad touch, which are the boundaries that, you know, even siblings should have. So I think all that thing, you know, is not taught to us. And most of us do not even understand that this is wrong up to a certain age. So I think from that is where from the problem happens. And I think we should be a little bit mindful when you're clicking pictures. None of us are mindful. We just randomly click pictures. We just randomly post. I have started requesting people in my videos that please, I beg of you, don't post pictures about your children, of your children also, along with victims. Because, you know, people just post pictures of their children with the place, location. And I'm started getting so much of complaints of children missing, good-looking children missing. So how do you find out? Because social media, you are putting everything all out in the social media, and, you know,
you don't know where it goes.
Yeah, and once it is out in the open, you don't know. You might be attending a call, your child must just be walking on the road, you don't know who's picking up your child. And nowadays it's so easy to lure your children by just giving a chocolate or maybe. So I think it is, I'm not saying everybody is bad.
Yeah.
The world out there is very bad. Be very mindful of who is coming to your house. I think of my experience, I've seen 95% of the crimes that happen is done by people known to us. That's what I have personally seen.
But Pallabi, also I think there is culture of silence, isn't it, that society at large perpetuates. In fact, you were also telling me that you know, this whole thing of when a complaint is made in the police thana, then there is also the thing that it's not taken seriously, and it's always looked at as a gharelu mamla and things like that. So it's, I think, one of the reasons that you are drawing so much attention is because you come from a very heart-centered space. You're talking about things very openly, not only in terms of the human trafficking, the rescue bit that you do, but also in terms of what is wrong, what is problematic, and what is this culture of you know, silence around it. Like, I know that at least in our generation, when we were growing up, you know, sexual abuse and all this thing, it was completely covered up. Human trafficking, it was known but never ever talked about. So for someone, you know, outspoken like you to actually take on the whole system, speak about it, and actually, you know, create a space like a pathway ki aise nahi bolna hai, you know, ye karo, ye nahi karo, is very, very topical and relevant today, right? So tell me a little bit more about your understanding from a psychological perspective on what is the profile of a perpetrator. Who is the trafficker? What is his story? What is the story of violence and profiteering from violence? What is that person?
All the traffickers that I have seen all my life, they are common people like you and me. You cannot even figure it out that the person is a trafficker, because the trafficker is like roaming around, sitting within us. I have seen it. The surprising thing is that the survivor or the victim has to always be in fear once they go back, while the trafficker is roaming normally as if nothing has happened, and he's trafficking more girls. That's what I've seen, like in my experience. And the main challenge is that most of the traffickers are people who are relatives of the survivor. And in most cases, they're not, even if they file a complaint, after a point of time, they don't even come to the court for deposition. And the reason is that, you know, their families tell them, you know, now you are rescued. Now if you tell the court that this person has trafficked you, then his family will break. And his wife is pregnant. I have seen, like, his wife is pregnant. I've seen a case where this girl was trafficked and then she was rescued, and then her aunt had trafficked her. And when she was rescued, she had said that the aunt had trafficked her. And when the case went for trial, she didn't come. She just didn't come for months and months and months. And then the aunt went scot-free. And then when we asked her, and then she's like, my family told that, अब तो तुम मतलब निकल गई हो, like you अब तो बच गई हो, aunt का family खराब हो जाएगा. My question is that now the same aunt will traffic another 20 people. Then तुम बच गई हो, उन 20 को how will we rescue? That is where my anger lies. Now this is one. And then again this person was raped in the village by some aunt, some relative. There also, they did not report it for a year. And after a year, they are coming and telling me that she was raped for a year. I was like, why didn't you tell me? Badnami, what badnami? For what? Yeah. My problem is that, see, whenever a woman is raped or whenever a man is raped, we always say that she was raped, he was raped.
Who is the rapist?
No, our narrative should change. It should be like they raped her or he raped her. We are putting blame on somebody who is
suffering.
Who is herself deprived or suffering. So the way people look at the survivors, I'll tell you, in the village, as if they are some, criminals. They are some, but they are the vulnerable one. Like, for example, just imagine the places from where these people come. Wahan pe, if I am also there, you never know, I might also be trafficked. There are just water and cotton field. There are rivers with crocodiles. There is no food. There is flood. People struggle to have food, clothing, shelter. Now I have to understand the trafficker psychology. The trafficker are people who come from same households. Some of the traffickers with whom I did not directly interact, but during police interrogation, I was there, I questioned them. And for me, I always talk to everyone. I just don't talk to the victim and the survivor because I want to know the psyche behind trafficking. Why are you trafficking somebody? Matlab, how can you be so heinous कि you are trafficking somebody as a commodity? मतलब तुम आटे दाल चावल के भाव मतलब लोगों को बेच रहे हो. And then I get to know that the trafficker comes from extreme violence. मतलब his mother was continuously raped by his father. His sister was beaten by the father. The entire village might have raped the mother. Like this kind of atrocities that the trafficker saw. He saw only violence. He didn't see anything which is positive, which is non-violent. So when you become a criminal, see, nobody is a born criminal. That's what I realized. People become criminal. I'm not saying about other people's experience. I'm just talking about my experience, individual experience. Whenever people commit a crime, there are multiple reasons for it. The conditioning, the circle they belong to, the peer, like there are the demography, the kind of poverty he has seen. So it's like all these things, all these things contribute for you to become a criminal. And with trafficker, what happened? They feel that एक को traffic किया, इतना पैसा मिला, और 5 को traffic करेंगे, इतना पैसा मिलेगा. Because ultimately, most of the time, वो trafficker जिसने बेचा, उसने violence नहीं देखा. So he might have talked to you, he might have told you to come to this place, he might have picked you up and sold you in Delhi. Just sold you. He did not see what that girl is going through. That violence he is not seeing because वो aftermath है. So somewhere उसको लगता है कि मैंने तो नहीं देखा, तो मुझे तो लग नहीं रहा है, बस मैंने रख दिया उसको. So I think it comes from extreme inhuman attitude कि आपको फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता, आपने तो देखा नहीं है, तो it's kind of जो मैंने नहीं देखा तो मुझे तो फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है, तो मैं करता हूँ. So kind of that thing. But traffickers are common people like you and me. You will never be able to find out that the trafficker is not someone. A lot of people ask me कैसे दिखते हैं, मैं बोलते आपके और मेरे जैसे ही दिखते हैं, normally दिखते हैं, हमारे साथ ही खाना खाते हैं, but आपको feel नहीं होगा. I have gone to villages, some of the villages I have seen traffickers. I know they are traffickers, but my hands are tied. मैं क्या करूँ? Because unfortunately the judiciary in India is witness based. आपको witness proof करना पड़ेगा. Like they say, there is this big saying, कि मतलब person जिसने crime नहीं किया है वो उसको सजा नहीं होना चाहिए, भले ही 100 criminals वो हो जाए. So I think it is also about a lot of witness, और witness नहीं साबित हो पाता for multiple reasons.
And what happens to the survivors or the people you manage to rescue and send them back? What happens to their lives?
See, it depends what happens to their lives because it is different from everyone has different experiences. Like the survivors I rescue now, the survivors I rescued earlier, used to be medically examined, they used to be produced before child welfare committees, and then they were sent to shelter homes, and then there used to be home investigation report. After that, they used to be restored to their homes, where the kind of mental torture was enormous, because the stigma and the taboo, gande jagah se aayi ho, galat kaam karke aayi ho, 24, it's a living death. Families take them, but
then torture them.
taking them and accepting, family doesn't torture them, but you know ये जो बातें सुनाना बार बार, हाँ, stigma, तो ये होता था. But with now, with the survivors that I rescue now, my objective is not just working on them, working on the community, लोगों के mentality को change करना. So that is a prime thing that I focus on. Along with that, you know, rehabilitation, when you talk about trying to give them financial independence, ensuring that, you know, they become so like fearless that वो बोले हाँ हमारी तस्करी हुई है तो क्या, हमारी तो गलती नहीं थी. मैंने giving them a voice कि भाई आपकी गलती नहीं है, आपके साथ रेप हुआ तो क्या हुआ, आपकी तो गलती नहीं है. So you know, that approach I have started doing since the last 5-6 years. My focus has been primarily, I don't even like to call them victims, don't even like to call them survivors. For years I don't want to call them survivors. They were survivors, they would have fought. Now they are like you and me, like it can happen to anybody. So I think that is very important, because when the survivors are at home, it's a mess. The families just want to get them married, शादी करवा देते हैं, जिसके साथ शादी होती है उसको बताते नहीं है कि इसकी तस्करी हुई है. पति को पता चल जाता है, जब तब तक उसके 2 बच्चे हो जाते हैं, अब पति उसको छोड़ देता है, अब वो डबल ट्रिपल वल्नरेबल. पहले वो अकेली थी, अब उसके पास 2 बच्चे, शी इज़ नॉट एजुकेटेड. जहाँ पे वो रही है, आई विल टेल यू, सम ऑफ माई सर्वाइवर्स get 10 rupees per day. साड़ी में वो जो क्या बोलते हैं, they put those bindis like कांच का bindis and all that, 10 रुपए मिलते हैं. Can you believe it? 10 rupees. एक सर्वाइवर है, उसको 3 दिन का 75 या 80 रुपए मिलते हैं. And when I tell this to the world, they don't believe. I told them मेरे साथ चलो, come to me, I will show you that. On top of that, उसका एक बच्चा है, उसका दूसरा भी बच्चा है, हस्बैंड ने उसको छोड़ दिया है क्योंकि उसको पता चल गया कि शी वॉज रेस्क्यूड फ्रॉम दिस काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग, राइट. और अब ही इज़ लिविंग विद अनदर पर्सन, शी इज़ लिविंग इन अ हाउस विच इज़ बेसिकली मेड ऑफ टर्पोलिन, जो कभी भी गिर जाएगा. एंड इमेजिन द वल्नरेबिलिटी. दोनों साइड में पॉन्ड है, उसका घर है, बीच में एक का मतलब कच्चा रास्ता है, एंड दैट इज़ हर लाइफ. इमेजिन people are paying her 10 rupees, and we are talking about minimum wage in our country, and this is actually happening. If anybody tells me, I tell them I can't give you the location, but you can come with me, because when I give the location, they're much more vulnerable. They are more vulnerable, and you don't know what will happen to them. So that's why I don't divulge the locations ever.
But Pallavi, you know, long term, this kind of really intensive involvement in the lives of so many people and so many this thing, it can't be done just by you, right? So you started off actually working within an organization structure, and then for different reasons you broke away because you felt that you were better off on your own. What is the best way to work in a way that you do not burn yourself out? Because right now you are single-handedly, you know, managing so many things. You're talking about it, you're actually doing the rescue thing, you're connecting the dots, you're looking at rehab, you know, you're also, you know, running a shelter home, which you're trying to make sustainable. How can one person do so much?
I think it is like, you know, taking breaks and all, and I feel it's very important that, you know, for me it happened organically. Like until 2021, nobody knew also the work that I'm doing. Until 2023, I did not even tell people what inspired me to become an anti-trafficking activist. 2023 was the first time that I said कि मैं जब 12 साल की थी तब ऐसा हुआ था. I didn't want.
I think that was one of the first people you told.
Because I was someone who always wanted to be away from media, because I was like, this media thing, if it gets into your head, no, it's too much. Not just about it, it's all about media, and that's something so I just wanted to be away from it. If somebody is inspired and wants to do something, I personally feel is that you have to be really passionate about it. Because if you are mechanical about it, अगर आपको लग रहा है कि ये तो ऐसे ही हो जाएगा, ऐसे नहीं होता है. It ऐसे नहीं होता है, and you cannot work. Because if your heart is not with it, you cannot. बिकॉज मतलब मैं देखती हूँ ना, आई हैव सीन अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल वर्किंग विथ मी, बहुत लोग आए, बहुत लोग गए, बहुत लोगों को बहुत कुछ करना था, बट दे कुडंट, बिकॉज द थिंग इज दैट दे डिड नॉट वांट टू लीव विद द कम्युनिटी. आपको कम्युनिटी के साथ रहना पड़ेगा. आप एक दिन कम्युनिटी में जाएंगे और सोचेंगे कम्युनिटी आपको सब कुछ बताए. इट टुक मी ईयर्स. यू कांट बिलीव द कम्युनिटी यूज्ड टू शट माई फेस. मतलब दरवाज़ा बंद कर देते थे जब मैं बोलती थी अवेयरनेस करूँगी, आई वांट टू डू अवेयरनेस विथ यू. दे वर लाइक, अवेयरनेस से क्या होगा, हमको तो भूख लगता है, बंधुआ मजदूर है, राइट, डेली वेज लेबर है, नो फूड, नो वर्क, नो पे. इट टुक मी ईयर्स जाके समझाना. फिर आई स्टिल रिमेंबर आई यूज टू एक्चुअली स्पॉन्सर देयर फूड. ये बोल देती थी कि आपको दोपहर का खाना मिलेगा, जस्ट आओ, जस्ट सुनो मुझे जो कहना है. एंड यू हैव टू बी कंसिस्टेंट, तभी यू कैन डू. एंड one thing is that start compartmentalizing, which I have not done. So my advice is that compartmentalize करो. जब आप प्रिवेंशन में कर रहे हो तो करो, लेकिन तीनों में काम करना पॉसिबल नहीं है. Because I started working from so young, so that's the reason I'm in my early 30s, I'm still able to do it. But I think people who work in this sector, they should choose one thing. Matlab, you can say by good luck or bad luck, I am doing 3 of the things, now multiple things. But I think people who want to start off, or who is inspired, try to do one thing. Don't go into rescue work. Rescue work is not jungle safari. I tell everybody, हर दूसरे दिन मेरे को 50 to 60 मैसेजेस आते हैं इंस्टाग्राम में, मैम हमको रेस्क्यू में जाना है, हमको रेस्क्यू में जाना है. रेस्क्यू इज़ नॉट ईजी. कपड़े फट जाते हैं, आपको अटैक हो जाता है, पीपल विल पुट ब्लेड ऑन यू, मिर्ची, पीपल विल थ्रो चिली पाउडर ऑन यू, यू विल बी थ्रेटन्ड एवरीवेयर, you will be followed, you will be stalked, your family will be threatened, people will try their 100 ways to bribe you. बहुत difficult है उस चीज़ में ना गिर जाना. The way you will be bribed and it will look so appealing to you, मतलब उस bribe में फंस ना जाना भी एक बहुत बड़ा वो है. So I think choose one thing. तीनों चीज़ करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है आपको. Choose one thing.
And also another aspect I want to ask you about, because you mentioned it to me, is that you said that when you started working for an organization, the organization was only paying you a fixed amount of money, right? But looking after your safety, caring for whether you had eaten or not, looking after where you actually stay, it was the cops and the police who actually helped you. So even though, they are always criticized as, being corrupt and, the sort of, police are so corrupt and they can be bribed and all that, who actually helped you, looked after you and were your friends, and therefore you have made. So tell me a little bit about that.
See, I tell you honestly, I am alive here right now because of police. I know they are corrupt. I know they don't file complaints. I know they tell people get out, complaint nahi register karenge. But every time they have been there for my security. Ladki to mujhe dhoondni hai. So I would never say that police has not supported me. The reason is that whenever you go to any rescue operation, it is the law enforcement that has to accompany you. How much ever big activist you are, how much ever big NGO it is, or a CBO, or whoever it is, police ke bina aap ja nahi sakte because you are not authorized first. Second is that I think it depends on how you deal with them. My approach with them has always been very sweet. Like whenever I have gone anywhere with them, I have always asked, and how are you? How is your children? Did you get sleep? I think that is what, made them feel that, actually ये हमें थोड़ा गंदे नज़र से नहीं दिखते. ये हमें, like right now I'm telling you, I am going for a lot of sessions with police, and the police is like, आप आ जाइए बेटे, आप आ जाइए मैडम, आप आ जाइए, आप हमारे यहाँ पे रह लेना, क्या दिक्कत है. So I think there is good and bad in every field. Again, that's my experience, क्योंकि मुझे हमेशा ना, they have taken care of me. I'll tell you, post 2016 when I went for all rescue operations, they used to drop me. Literally, they used to, after the training, they used to drop me. वो मैं जो काउंसलिंग भी करती थी ना, उसके लिए भी वो मुझे पैसे देते थे कि आप इतने दूर से आए हो, जितना पैसा देना होता था उससे ज़्यादा ही देते थे. I'm not lying. And they were like, they used to drop me till the metro station, and they used to wait. जब मैं घर पहुँचूंगी मैं कॉल उनको करूँगी. Like, these are the ways they have taken care. बार बार आके asking, have you had tea? Did you get sleep? Did you take bath? And they have really done it. I have no reason to lie. So I personally think that kind of gratitude we should start giving them. Because, I personally, I feel the reason that police is corrupt or whatever, it's because, you know, they're overworked. They are, the pay is less. The number of police personals are less, understaffed.
And the stress is
The
very,
stress
very
is
high.
more. Just like, just I feel like I have seen them standing under sun for entire day. तो दिमाग किसका सही रहेगा type. I'm not saying that police is not bad. I'm not saying that. Of course, there are good and bad in every place. But a lot of people ask me that आप पुलिस को गलत क्यों नहीं कहते? I can just say my experience. मेरा अनुभव भी मैं कह सकती हूँ. मैं दूसरों का अनुभव नहीं कह सकती. मेरे अनुभव में भी मेरे को रूड लोग मिले हैं. मेरे अनुभव में मेरे को वो मिले हैं. लेकिन whenever I've got somebody rude, no, मैंने उनसे जब बात करके उनको समझाने की कोशिश की है ना,
They've understood.
they've understood. And then I'm like, मैं ऐसे बोलती हूँ कि सर अगर आपकी बच्ची होती तो हम नहीं ढूंढने जाते. हाँ ढूंढने जाते तो I think that part you have to catch. You have to give them respect. Then you get respect, and it has really helped me. मैं जब भी जाती हूँ किसी थाने में, and one thing good in me, I never appreciate myself is, चाहे वो कोई IPS हो, चाहे वो constable हो, I treat them equally.
Same.
I treat them equally. I give them the same respect. The way they call me madam, I'm like, please don't call me madam. Like वो नीचे बैठे हैं तो मैं भी. I think this has helped me really. Like constables have really helped me.
So Pallabi, the other thing I want to ask you about is this whole thing on counseling victims, right? Because the first instance when you rescue someone, so the first person they turn to for help is you. And I know you've told me that you don't consider yourself a counselor, but I think your unique set of skills combined with your passion and your experience puts you in that position where inevitably you seem to be the most trustworthy person around for the victim. How do you handle that? What are the things that you tell them or you ensure at that time?
I never asked them what they went through. पहले तो इतना पता नहीं था because I myself was a kid when I started working. I was 22, 23. I'm like, I never asked them what they went through. The first thing that I do when I rescue them is like, what do they want? Do they want to drink water? Do they want to take bath? Do they want to sleep? What do they want to do? And basic information like what is their name, what is their father's name, what is their village name, all that. And they tell me.
You allow them to speak and open up on their own.
I don't, because I am also doing the same na. क्या हुआ, कितनी बार हुआ, किसने किया. And I personally don't feel that I am a counselor because counseling needs a specific degree. A lot of us mix counseling with information. हम जो करते हैं ना, हम उनसे information लेते हैं और उसको हम बोलते हैं हमने counseling की. Counseling is not that. Counseling is making that person comfortable so that he or she is in a position to share all the pain. Counseling is not judging a person. अगर कोई आपको उसकी आप बीती बता रहे हैं तो आप नहीं बोलोगे कि तुमने कुछ क्यों नहीं किया. Counseling is all about listening, right? You listen and listen. Right. But most people just ask a question and that makes the person nervous. So I give the space to the person to tell. I generally, whenever, like after I started working by myself, I've ensured that there are outside counselors who talk to the girls. I don't talk to the girls because I think I am not eligible or authorized to talk to the girls. Also, I feel, if you're not a counselor, there is this constant feeling of judging. जैसे कुछ लड़कियां जब बोलती है कि हमको केस नहीं करना, तो क्यों नहीं करना केस? तुम क्यों केस नहीं करना चाहती? You are not in that person's position ना. तुम कैसे बोल सकती हो? तुम क्यों hostile हो गई? तुमने ही तो बोला था कि उसने तुम्हारे साथ ऐसा किया. So we have this constant thing of asking the question. अरे we are not in that person's shoes. वो बच्चा या फिर वो औरत या फिर वो आदमी क्यों केस नहीं करना चाहता, FIR दर्ज करा के भी उसके पीछे कोई बड़ा स्टोरी होगा जो बताना नहीं चाहता. तो it is very easy to accuse people. So I used to, at one point of time, I used to be very like too much of activism कि तुमने फाइल किया FIR, अब तुम क्यों नहीं कोर्ट में जा रही हो, अब तुम चेंज हो रहे हैं स्टेटमेंट. Right now, I think in the last 5-6 years, I have also evolved as a person. I realized that, everything is not black and white. it's also gray, and there are three sides to a story. One is your, one is that person, and one is the truth. So you have no right to impose. If a child doesn't want to do a case, that's the child's choice. If a child doesn't want to file a complaint, that's a child's choice. You have to give time to the child. I think a lot of times we just bombard the child with so much of questions and all this, which the child just can't handle.
So, if there is a person being groomed, I'm just asking you about a certain message that you might want children or vulnerable people or people using social media who might be getting groomed or who might be getting the wrong kind of attention. What are the things that they should know about or stay away from?
I think the first thing is that, have kids. It's your choice. But having kids and taking care of the kids mein zameen asman ka fark hai. Maybe that is the reason I've been married it will be the 5th year of my marriage. I have not yet had kids. That's the main reason, because I feel that बच्चा पैदा करना बहुत आसान है, बच्चे को पालना बहुत मुश्किल है, because the world is not like the way it was earlier. We had grandmothers, grandfathers, mothers, fathers take care. Now it's all families are nuclear, and you can't keep a track of what your child is doing. Things have become very difficult. I see all around me children with their phones 24/7. You don't know what the child is looking at. You don't know whenever the child is playing on phones, there are these soft porns coming. So yes. it is very difficult to keep a track on your child. And half of us, look, at least 80% of us think that just giving material things to our child is where it ends. No. Nothing can compensate your love and affection for your child. That's one thing. And this whole concept of branding, the kind of clothes that you make your child wear, the kind of shoes that you make your child wear, that is not what your child is looking into. Because I am telling it because I've seen it around me. Putting your child in international schools, if you can afford it, please do it. But if you can't afford it, don't do it. Just because your friends are doing it, your relatives are doing it, because from your childhood you are putting a comparison between your children, and then children are also falling into it. And I have personally seen so many complaints to me where parents are saying that the children don't talk. The children have started talking very late. The children's they don't have concentration. The children are addicted to social media. The morning they get up in the morning, the first thing they look for is the mobile. So I think I would request everybody to please be a little bit alert with your children, to please see what your child is doing. Don't stalk them again. Be friends with them. If your child has a boyfriend, girlfriend, be very fine with it. I think it's all about being friendly. Talk to your children about issues like sex education, reproduction, menstruation. Tell them if somebody has abused them, it's okay. Like what I have started doing is that whenever I go and do sessions with very small children, the first thing I tell them that is, I have been abused. And I have been abused. I normalize the conversation, and I see boys coming up to me and telling me, Didi, mera abuse hua tha, madam, hamara abuse hua tha. So I think normalizing conversations like this, I think that is very helpful. And also, who is your friends of your child? Where are the places your children is going? Be very mindful about it, because I have started getting cases of children being in PGs where some other PG mate has an iPhone and this person doesn't have an iPhone, and this person made this person contact somebody in social media,
yes.
and then this girl is missing. So it's
Yes.
very difficult. So I think ये भी बहुत ध्यान रखना बहुत ज़रूरी है. And main thing is I think we all have to be a little bit grounded, because all this money and everything, these are really short-lived. When you are not grounded, when you just start, see, there is no end to the demand. There is no end to चाह का ना कोई ख़त्म नहीं है. Like आज ये चाहिए तो कल वो चाहिए. It is endless. So I think we should understand that where does it end? Where does it end? Because I've seen kids in Bangalore. I've seen my kids with whom I interact. Matlab, the way they talk to me, they were like, you have a smartwatch, you have a smartphone. And these kids are like 5-year-old, 6-year-old. I'm like, kahan se bacche? Because I also had a childhood.
Right.
So I think it's very important that parents understand this. Because हो रहा है, crime हो रहा है. Depression से लोगों की trafficking हो रही है. Domestic violence से लोगों की trafficking हो रही है. I think फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल कीप योर ओन हाउस सेफ. मैं ये नहीं बोल रही हूँ कि बिकम एन एक्टिविस्ट लाइक मी, बिकम ए सोशल वर्कर. नो, आई एम जस्ट सेइंग दैट जो आपका रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी वो तो करिए. डोंट बी लाइक ए हॉर्स लुकिंग ओनली इन द फ्रंट की मेरे घर में तो नहीं होगा, बाहर हो रहा है. आप पहले अपने घर में देखिए अपने बच्चे के साथ क्या हो रहा है. वी आर थिंकिंग दैट वी लिव इन सच ए प्रोटेक्टिव एनवायरनमेंट, हमें लगता है हमारे साथ नहीं होगा. देयर इज दिस गर्ल वाज ट्रैफिक्ड, लाइक हर फादर वाज टेलिंग मी कि मुझे तो लगा ही नहीं मेरी बेटी का ट्रैफिकिंग होगा. And then when his daughter was trafficked, he was like, I never realized. I said, that's the problem. No. Anything can happen with anybody. Be a little bit mindful. And please be aware, crime ना हमारे आसपास घूमता है. जुर्म जो होता है ना आसपास घूमता है. You just need to be a little bit alert. Because most of the people I have dealt with, उनके साथ जो भी crime हुआ है या फिर उनके साथ जो भी problem है in terms of trafficking, missing, all that, is done by people known to them. बाहर के लोगों को कैसे पता? अब कोई दिल्ली में बैठा हुआ है, उसको कैसे पता कि कोई झारखंड में है, उसके घर में इतनी पॉवर्टी है? उसको तो नहीं पता होगा ना. सो आई थिंक ए लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स हैपन amongst us, within us, by people around us. So वो चीज़ ध्यान रखना बहुत ज़रूरी है.
Thank you, Pallavi. It's been, I mean, I wish I would say that it's been a very pleasant conversation. It hasn't, because it's ranged to such an extreme thing, but what it has done is given a very 360 view of, you know, the personal, the social, the, you know, the evil, the mindfulness, and the huge impact of actually being mindful, like you said. I'm really grateful again. Thank you for coming here, and thank you for giving us such a close encounter view of everything that you go through. And once again, tremendous work.
Thank you for calling me.